So today
we're reviewing
The Patriot.
So yeah, this is the 4th of July video here. We have a lot of fireworks going off in the background. Hopefully you'll be able to see some in the background. But I guess, what were your overall thoughts of, what's your overall thoughts of The Patriot?
Patriot's probably one of the best historical movies in my opinion. The more I've watched it, the more I've loved it. Just from all around the storyline, how emotionally invested you get into these characters. I mean, every time I watch it, I feel like I get more and more invested with like feeling for when the deaths happen, just the storyline, the overall atmosphere, and I think it's just a great film, and the music is really good as well. It's one of my favorite, I guess I'd say, historically based films of all time, probably.
What were your overall thoughts?
The Patriot, this is America's birthday. We're doing this on July 4th, 2020 here, and I feel privileged to be a part of this with my sons on America's birthday, celebrating and going over the movie The Patriot. It was definitely one of my favorites as well. Definitely top 10. I've been around a lot longer, so I've got a lot of movies to keep in that top 10. But this one, as far as towards our country, like Jake said and Ken said, towards the history of our country, is pretty accurate. And it's action-packed. It's full of history things. Some things are not necessarily what everyone wants to see, but some of the truth of the birth of our nation was not all, roses. We definitely had to go through a lot, through the transition of becoming a nation. And you can hear the fireworks in the background. Back then, this would have been maybe cannon fire, gunfire. And definitely tip my hat not only to the men and women that serve our country today, but going back to the birth of our country, the men and women and people that sacrificed for us to have these opportunities here today, to where we can have food, enjoy family, is definitely something that I don't take lightly, and I definitely appreciate it. So, thank you.
Yeah, this movie, in my opinion, is definitely one of the best. I think it's acted very well by some big-time actors like Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger, and there's a lot of great characters, and this movie is very tragic in a lot of the sense. It is very, not negative, but there's a lot of bad things that happen. Obviously, it's real history, so it's not going to be just randomly made up. And there are a lot of sad parts, but it's very effective with how they're used. Like the many deaths in this movie revolving around Mel Gibson, his character's family. I definitely think the action is pretty good. All the acting is great, like I said. The different scenes, there's a lot of great scenes that we'll go over, but I definitely think this is one of my favorite war movies for sure. Brutally realistic in many ways. But I guess you want to go over a specific positive or one of your favorite scenes?
I feel like just kind of how our dad just said, how like it really just shows how like these fireworks would be like gunfire or cannon fire in the background, but in this movie there's a few scenes where I think his daughters are looking at the window and you see the battles like taking place in their front yard, like it's right in their house. They take in some of the enemy soldier and their own men, and I just feel like it's just a great atmosphere, like showing like how everything's right there. I mean, really, just from like a kid's standpoint, how scary that has to be to see, like, I mean, the war is happening right there in front of your doorstep, and then also just how this movie shows how it really teaches a lot of great things. How like I guess the standard warfare type of like just standing there in one side firing, the next other side firing, which is an absolute like suicide mission almost, and then we had to kind of adjust to a little like militia type, like kind of like going to the woods, using different strategies,
techniques,
stuff like that. I feel like it was a great scene because like it showed how we really were just taking them out with that strategy, even though they were just farmers, like not actual soldiers fighting in this thing. Yeah, exactly. There's like not a farmer, but the shepherd, the guy who had like the dogs and stuff, and then just showing how like just those kind of guys, even like his sons, even like his like little kids like firing weapons. Yeah, it's great. Once again, it's great scenes in that aspect. I was the overall historical implementation of this movie is great, but then there's also good comedy too. There's some really sad scenes, but also some funny scenes as well.
Yeah, it definitely there's a lot of great motivation, especially behind the main bad character who does some very bad stuff, but it leads to some great scenes later in the movie.
Yeah, it's great.
With some very motivational stuff in this movie to really propel them forward in the plot as far as going after these guys, and really mainly the main guy. But I guess what are some of your one of your favorite scenes? You had to point them out.
I mean, like Jake said, I think some of my favorite scenes were when they were in their house and the battles were unfolding around them. And I think this movie definitely depicts, this is one of the few wars that we've had throughout our time. The Revolutionary War, this one here that created our nation, and the Civil War were fought on our soil. And definitely, so like where we're living or where they were living, right in their backyard, front yard, the war was unfolding right in front of them. And basically, the sacrifices made amongst that war, like I said, created what we have here today. And it also definitely went into the detail that the war was just not fought by soldiers. It was fought on our home fronts. Families were torn apart by the loss of loved ones. And basically, these were the things that these men and women and people had to sacrifice for us to become a nation. Anything this great, anyone should know, definitely takes sacrifice. So the scenes as far as like the lighting, the sound effects towards him looking out over his porch and there's cannon fire going off, gunfire, men in retreat, battles going on, I think, you know, amongst a lot of other scenes, a lot of good scenery to these battles. I think were really my favorite part of the movie.
And I just want to quickly say what he was just saying about like the battle was fought on our own soil. I feel like I think this film does a great job of like jumping really long periods of time. So, like I remember at the beginning of the film, like they're deciding whether they should go to war or not. And Mel Gibson says. He says that if we do this, the war's gonna be fought on our own soil. Then it shows like that's exactly what's happening later on. Like his story arc's a great storyline because like he didn't want to fight, but then he does fight in the end.
It is a long movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he also says to add on to that line as well. He said it would be fought amongst us, and what that means is if you watch the movie, not everyone was on the same page to fight for our independence. Some people stayed with the mother country, which was England. England is a great ally of ours now, thank God. And we enjoy that ally, really respect England. But at the time, as throughout history, things can be different. There's no one perfect out there. And but those people put, themselves together during that time to create, like I said, what we have now.
It's definitely very brutal. They show how brutal this is and how it's not fun and how tough this really is. And there are a few specific scenes, like the one where actually the Mel Gibson, his main character, his son is killed, and then he goes after that main battalion to get Heath Ledger's character back. That's a great scene there, and also just shows how crazy he became in that moment. He was mad, but it shows how awful the whole situation is. And also, in particular, when he's trying to get the prisoners out of the main base, he has his dogs in there, and then as he's walking out, he whistles and has them come out, and he pretended to have their prisoners in there. That's a great scene. And then also in the end battle, where obviously people are falling back, and Mel Gibson's character has the flag, says hold the line. What does he say? He says hold. Yeah, he says hold. And then he keeps going up, gets everyone to turn around, and then obviously he gets the main bad guy with the flag, and then that iconic scene where he has him flank back and shoot, and that's honest. I really love that end battle.
Once again, there's just so many good storylines and story arcs in this film. Like there's really it's not just one. Obviously, the main character Mel Gibson. There's like millions of other storylines. There's Heath Ledger and his girlfriend character, which that's a really sad storyline there. When that horrible general for I guess England gets everyone inside that church and they burn the church down. And there's a lot of I think they hung. Or I guess I don't know if they hung a kid, but they killed the one guy's wife and sons. There's a lot of dark stuff in this, but then I feel like there's a lot of just backstories. Like Mel Gibson's character, they're teasing about something he did at Fort something. Remember they're always asking what happened here. Then finally at the end he tells Heath Ledger what happened there and how brutal that was. Because obviously you could tell something happened in his past for him not to want to fight anymore. But then that scene when he just absolutely there's that last guy and he throws the axe, it's just basically killing him over and over again. It just shows that he has a really deep history there of fighting and stuff. So
well, I agree, and I think the thing that Jake's hitting on there is Mel Gibson's character. He wants to fight, but I think because of the responsibilities he had at home, he had lost his wife. He had a lot of children to raise, and I think that's why he was kind of trying to make that call. I think he saw what was coming. It was kind of unavoidable if we were going to have our independence with what was going on. But wars are brutal. That's just they're not like the old movies where everything is roses, like I said, and there's just things that go on that aren't as pretty. A lot of guys had things they didn't want to do. But I do want to tip my hat as well in this movie. The French did help us out. They had to, wait and see what was going on in this war, and they did help us out at the end, which we appreciate. And I think that leaving this, not only do we think our nation's great and we love this country, America, but we also have allies like France and England that we really appreciate.
Yeah, and obviously in this movie it also shows that there were good people on both sides, and that's definitely symbolized because there is the main bad guy who says burn them, burn the buildings, and people are like, what are you talking about? Because it shows there's good people on both sides, and that not everyone was just bad on one side. It wasn't that simple where it's just perfectly good and perfectly evil.
Even the one guy before, when that really bad general shows up, when he goes up to Mel Gibson and says like thanks for like helping our wounded, but then like as soon as that one guy comes over, he like runs back down to act like he wasn't talking to him, and then they end up shooting all those guys there and burning. Burning the stuff is just terrible. So there's some like that beautiful house that they burned down, and just how brutal like their tactics were. I mean, I'm not sure if that character's that's based on a real like person. The guy who said like where is his family? They went after their family like that on his I guess his wife's sister's property or whatever.
Yeah. This is a really long movie though, which is probably why this
is
movie
really
is
long.
longer. Is that I think it's over 3 hours, I believe so.
With commercials, like 5.
And it is a really long movie. A lot of great scenes. Probably last thing I'll add is Heath Ledger's death is probably one of the most frustrating deaths in all of movies. When he has the bad guy, the main bad guy, he has him right there. He decides to stab him because he wants to kill him slower and really angry at him. And he ends up killing him. Probably one of the most frustrating death scenes, but paid off in the end because of how annoying that character is throughout this whole movie.
I wanted to add on that, just how like it does make that character so annoying, you hate him the entire time, but they pay it off because at the end it looks like he's gonna die and then he kills him. It does. It's not like The Last of Us Part 2 where you get to a point and he lets him go. He kills him off there. And then the last thing I wanted to say was there's some really graphic and brutal scenes. Like there's that one where the one that I never saw the first like 20 times I saw the movies. I guess it got cut out of the channels we watched it on. But one of the cannonballs skips and takes the guy's head off or his leg off. I think isn't there a scene like that?
A leg and a head.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's realistic of how that actually happens. So.
Yeah, I think, like we said, it's a great movie, but it definitely depicts some scenes of the horrors of what war is. You have to fight them to protect what we have. That's why we once again tip our hats to the men and women that are serving right now to protect us while we enjoy a great holiday. But the movie definitely goes into some detail with what a cannonball can do, what a bullet can do. The bullets back then also were steel balls that could fracture bones, and you didn't have the same medical coverage you have today back then. So the thing that would happen is the bone would get shattered, would release poisons from marrow, and I'm not sure if I'm exact on this, but it did things to the legs and arms to where they had to cut those appendages off so that the poison didn't go to the rest of their body and kill them. And it's just like we said, an unfortunate thing that you just definitely have to appreciate what they went through. And but great movie. I thought the characters were well played, and it's a great American movie to watch. And unfortunately, we came out on top to create our birthday, which I don't know if we said this or not. This is our 244th American birthday. So we'll
44 years.
We'll make so many more, at least myself, but hopefully this nation will continue to have a lot more from here.
And one last thing I wanted to add, I haven't even mentioned yet, another storyline was between the guy that's basically a racist guy towards the slaves, but it was a perfect storyline because it shows him like, I don't know who the actor is, but the one, I don't know if he's a slave, the guy who's fighting in the war so he can become free, but then at the end it just shows him save the guy who's being racist towards him, but then like they like have a great friendship by the end of that movie. It just shows how like people can grow. And like that's just a great storyline there because I just thought that really showed. And then he like chose to stay fighting even though he was free. Like I thought that was a great storyline there.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a great movie. We obviously all give it a 10 out of 10 because it's one of our favorite movies. And it's a very long movie, but very good. And I hope you enjoyed the fireworks in the background. I think we got a few to go over, but it's very, I think, a good setting for this movie because literally the battle was on the home front. It was right out front, so I thought it was a good setting. But any last words?
No, just go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, it's just really good. It's definitely a 10 out of 10, obviously, because we're doing this in our My Favorite Movies series, but it's definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 10 out of 10 just because it's a really good movie. It's about our country, USA.
And that's a good firework to end it off.
Or it's got a gun.
You want to close off?
Yeah. Hey, well, that was our movie review of The Patriot. Let us know down in the comments if you guys have seen this movie. We definitely recommend it. Really, really great movie.
Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. That's not good.